Hello and welcome to BFS Wargaming. So today I want to talk about 3 things that I love about Warhammer 40k 10th edition. So I think it's taken a lot of flack 10th edition, and don't get me wrong, there's things that I don't like necessarily about some of the rules and things like that, but I want to focus on the things that I do like. So number 1, I really like the change in toughness. So the scale of the toughness has got bigger since 9th. So it used to sort of be toughness 8, toughness 9 was like the maximum. And now you've got up to like toughness 14 vehicles, which is really good because that then means that you have to bring the right guns, the big heavy guns, the big anti-tank guns to kill the tanks, which feels good. You know, it feels how it should be. So you're not just killing everything with a strength 6 weapon because you can't do it anymore. There is still stuff like devastating wounds in there, which enables you to deal with wounds and lethal hits to deal wounds to vehicles, but it generally is really harder to kill vehicles and monsters and things like that. It also means that things like your elites are now sort of and your beasts and things now maybe are a little bit tougher. Your dreadnoughts, your war suits, things like that, now their toughness has gone up a bit. So some of the things that could maybe do quite a bit of damage to them before is now a lot harder to do damage to them. So that's the first thing I really like about 10th edition. Okay, number 2, the second thing I really like about 10th edition is the data sheets. Now, the abilities have been put on the data sheets for each unit. So each unit has its own ability and it's on its data sheet. So for instance, the Tomb Blades, the Necron Tomb Blades, their ability is that they are -1 to hit. So they're -1 to hit all of the time. And it's a really cool little ability. They also, then on the data sheet, you may have keywords. So their keyword is Scout. So it's Scout 9, so they can move a 9-inch scout move before the battle starts. Some units have infiltrate, so they can infiltrate in deployment. So there's all these different sort of keywords that mean different things, which allow you to do different things, which is really good. And then you have these separate abilities, like I said, like the -1 to hit, or for instance, Drukhari Mandrakes can come off the battlefield and then can come back on the next turn. And that's just like a free ability that's on their data sheet. Also on the data sheets, is like the strength of your weapons, the AP, the damage of your weapons, how many shots you get, things like that. And then on the back of the data sheet is things like your war gear options, also how many you can have in the unit, things like that. And then the leaders, on the back of the leader ones, it will tell you which units they can then be attached to. So really like the data sheets, it makes it really clear. What's also good about data sheets is you can then hand them to your opponent. So if your opponent's like, you know, what do they do? You can go, here, have a look, here's the data sheet. They can read through it and they know exactly what's going on. So in them terms, I really like the data sheets. I think it tidies a lot of stuff up and it's nice and simple and easy to use. So the third thing I like is the detachments. So the detachments are good in the way that you now have a detachment rule. So you've got an army rule, which everything from that faction. So for instance, Space Marines have Oath of Moment, which is choose an enemy unit in your command phase, and that unit you can reroll hits and reroll wounds. Now that's the army-wide ability, but then you can then take a detachment. So the one that's available at the moment for Space Marines is called the Gladius Task Force, and then you have a rule within that. And for instance, that rule is you can choose doctrine. So there's 3 different doctrines you can choose at the beginning of your command phase. One of them is you can advance and charge, one of them is you can advance and shoot, and one of them is you can fall back and shoot. So 3 really cool rules that you can use to adapt in your game. Then you have 4 enhancements you can choose from in each detachment, which you'll pay points for. You can choose up to 3 and you have to have them on different characters. So yeah, that's really cool. I like the enhancements. There's 4. Then you have 6 stratagems per detachment. So I think this is really nice because it keeps it really neat in each, you know, when you're playing someone, you know they've got 6 stratagems. You don't have to try and remember 24 stratagems that they've got. They might suddenly pull this stratagem out on you and you're like, oh, I completely forgot you had that stratagem. So it's really nice. There's just 6 stratagems. So when you're playing, and you can sort of say to you can get them up and have a look at the 6 stratagems your opponent's got, so you sort of know when they can play them. Also the enhancements, there's only 4 to choose from, so it's easy to know, it's easy to remember. And then again with the detachment rule, so I think it's nice and neat. Again, it's simple. The only thing I worry about this in particular is things like white scars. Although you'll have a detachment that you can play that might feel like white scars, you won't have a specific rule for playing white scars, which a part of me feels like it's losing a little bit of flavor there, because I could just be any Space Marine detachment with some bikes, you know. So I would like to see, especially for the Space Marine chapters, more than for instance the Necron Dynasties, because Necron Dynasties, I think the detachments is sort of fine, but I think there's so much lore behind the Space Marine chapters, and it's so big that I would just like to see something a little bit extra for the Space Marine chapters, just to make it that little bit different. But I won't complain about it. I think it's really good, and I really like the way they have done the detachment. So yeah, it's a big thumbs up for me for number 3. I hope you enjoyed my video on